Big Creek Fire. Whenever you are in the woods, there is always the threat and danger of fire. If a fire was to occur, it could be caused by an act of nature through the hand of man or some kind of combination of the two. It was with this latter example where a chipmunk gnawed through an electrical wire that caused a forest fire to occur at Huntington Lake in late August of 1994. Aiding in the spread of the fire, as well as its sheer size, were severe winds blowing through the area, accompanied by the accumulation of a large volume of dead plant matter. If humanity hadn't established a settlement in the area, then all this dead plant matter wouldn't have been allowed to pile to the extent that it did, because previous fires would have come through and consumed it all, resulting in the clearing of the material, and the 1994 fire wouldn't have gotten as big, and that fire spread far and wide, consuming as much material as it could. As the fire burned, it threatened a lot of people's cabins as well as other pieces of property. The fire crews from Huntington Lake, Big Creek, and Shaver Lake were all called upon to help fight the blaze. The fire got so bad that people had to be evacuated from the area. It was during these evacuations, as well as when the firefighters were doing their jobs, that people reported seeing strange events within the flames. Most of these reports came from firefighters, but a few did come from some private citizens. With these strange events, they were described as anthropomorphic figures moving about within the fire. These figures weren't actually people who were unlucky enough to be overcome by the fire and set ablaze, or any other creature in a roughly human shape spotted deep within the fire. When these things were described, they were said to be comprised entirely of flame, and when they were spotted, these figures were only seen for a brief moment before it would disappear or would otherwise merge back into the greater firestorm. If these things were spotted by the firefighters, they were only seen for an instant before vanishing because the firefighters were focused upon fighting the fire instead of admiring the flames or spotting anomalies. And if a firefighter did have a good look at one of these things, they were described as dancing objects before blending back in with the rest of the flames. If the firefighter just so happened to blink, the figure would be gone before they had the chance to reopen their eyes. More often than not, the firefighter would just dismiss this incident as nothing more than a trick of the eye. And when one of these things would be spotted by a civilian, the same thing would occur as with the firefighters. However, there was one situation where someone saw something that stood out in their memory. As the flames ascended skyward, a face emerged from among these flames and started to look around at its immediate vicinity. This face hung around just long enough to actually stare directly at the person before breaking apart and disappearing. So even though this fire started off innocently enough, it didn't take long for the fire to develop into its own beast. So when you are in these woods and are close to a fire, regardless of what kind, be careful when you look into its flames, for you just might see a figure dancing within it. Or, if you're not careful enough, there is the possibility that the fire will begin to stare right back at you.